Hello friends, welcome to UGC EPG Pathshala. Myself Mohammad Nur Huda, Department of Geography, Jamia Millia Islamia. Today I will discuss the module Scientific Methods in Geography from the paper Geographical Thought. This is written by the Dr. Naseem Akhtar from the Presidency University, Kolkata. In this module, I will discuss about what do you mean by the scientific methods, and second one is the key element of the scientific methods, and third the type of functions and hypotheses, and fourth is geographical application of scientific method and relevance of the scientific methods in geography. After the World War II and many more development and took place in the geographical studies up to the end of the 19th century, the geographical issues were descriptive, basically analyzed by the sensual organs. The introduction of quantitative revolution changes the descriptive character of the subject and makes it the scientific discipline. This is a paradigm shift from ideographic to the nomethetic in order to maintain the discipline to the level of logical and rational pursuit of understanding. The most of the Anglo-American Relevance who were trained in mathematics and aesthetics, and some of them who shifted to the geography from natural sciences, as geography appeared to be a true science as a law-seeking discipline rather than the ideographic sciences. Much fundamental research in the geography has not been concerned with the high level of generalization, and it has given meaning to other research efforts which succeeded. Accurate study depend on qualification and should furnish a theoretical framework with capacity to illuminate the actually observed distribution pattern and space relation. The positivist led geography then called for the development of theory for the application of quantitative methods and for a focus on laws and generalization to form a building block for further nomethetic researchers. As a science, geography with its positive character concern itself with the empirical question and not with the normative questions. Empirical questions are questions about how things are relative, and in this context reality is defined as a world which can be sensed and which can be sensed with the sensual organs, and this means that science is concerned with the subject in the world. Science can be described how things are and discovers the association of causes which explain why things are they are. Contemporary positivist led geography therefore sought to investigate two pertinent questions of geographic character. First one is a theoretical question that deals with the formulation of empirical generalization and explanation of or law, perhaps even with the basic theories, and second one the methodological questions which have to do with the experiment in new methods of study, new techniques of observation and analysis in new categoric methods. And scientific method is popularly defined as an accumulation of systematic knowledge. It is a method of approach to entire empirical world, and it does not aims to persuasion. It is nearly a mode of analysis that permit the scientist to state propositions in the form of if and then. The sole purpose of the science is understand the world in which man lives. The term scientific methods denote the logical structure of the progress by which the search for the trustworthy knowledge advances. The primary task of the scientific method is to explain empirical phenomena. There is no need to argue that geography ought to be a science. Geography simply is a science by virtue of the fact that it is a truth-seeking discipline whose raw material consists of the empirical observations, and there is no suggestion that geography should undergo any sorts of epistemological restructuring. That's a call by Marshall in 1985, and Hay in 1985. Same is identify 4 groups of the geographer with regard to the appropriateness or inappropriateness of scientific method in geography. The first group of consists of physical geographer who believes that their discipline is a field of natural science. In the second group are those human geographers who see scientific method as being appropriate to their discipline as a social science. And third group consists those who believe that geography made scientific or causes scientific methodology appropriate. Most recently, a fourth group has emerged which seek to apply Marxist method in geography and believes that methods are scientific in the mold of classical natural sciences. In order to understand the above mentioned views, it is necessary to identify the key elements of scientific thinking and practices. It is also important to outline some of the philosophical problems as well as to examine some additional issues which arise when scientific method is applied to geography and also other similar disciplines. There is a key element of scientific method. The scientific method is characterized by the 5 key elements. These 5 key elements are theory and fact, law, logic, reduction, and hypothesis. The theory and fact. First one is the theory and fact, the basic to modern sciences in a intricate relation between theory and fact. Theory is compared with the speculation. Thus, a theory remains a speculation until it is proved. When the proof is made, theory becomes a fact. And theory is supposed to be the realms of philosophers. Therefore, scientific theory is thought to be merely the summation of fact which have been accumulated upon the given discipline. A fact is regarded as an empirical variable observation. It could be never have introduced modern science had it not be regathered. It can be said that fact of science are the product of observation that are not random but meaningful. Thus, theory and fact are interrelated in many complex ways. The development of science can be considered as constant interplay between theory and fact. Role of theories. First one is it defines the major orientation of sciences. The role of theories define the offer a conceptual scheme and classification of relevant phenomena. It also predict the facts, and fourth one is the summarize fact into the empirical generalization and systems of generalizations. It points to gap in our knowledge. The role of facts are reflect the help to initiate theories, and they lead to the reformulation of existing theories. The rejection of theories which do not fit to the fact. They change the fact and focus orientation theory. They classify redefine the theories. Second one is the law. The second key element and of scientific thinking is law. Any fully developed scientific theories contain embedded within it certain statement about unvarying relationship. These laws may be evident at a level of everyday experience or only at the level of scientific investigation. As with the theories, there is a predisposition among the scientists we seek to law the credit to put the relevance of law in geography goes to the Schaeffer's, who said that geographers should seek to make law-like statements. To explain the phenomena, one has to describe the means to recognize them as an instance of law. Hence, geography has to be conceived as a science concerned with the formulation of the laws governing the spatial distribution of certain features on the surface of the earth. A law should be unrestricted in its application over a space and time. It is thus a universal statement of unrestricted range. Law should not make a specific reference to proper names. A major criteria in determining whether a statement is a or is not a law is a relationship of the statement to a system of a statement that constitute a theory. If this criteria is accepted, then ideas are required to be adjusted regarding the verification procedure necessary to transform a scientific hypothesis to a scientific law. The truth of an empirical law has to be established by the scientific methods but in addition it is required to support from other empirical laws, theoretical laws, and also from other lower level empirical laws that help it to predict. Glodge and Amado in 1968 indicate 4 type of laws which have relevance for human geographers. First one, the cross section law. It describes the function relationship but shows no causal connection. And second one, the empirical law, equilibrium law. It states what will be the observed if certain criteria are met. And third one is the dynamic law. It incorporate notion of change within alteration in one variable to being followed by the alternation of the another variables. And fourth one is a statistical law. It is related to the probability statement. According to Shack, geography is a concern to explain events, and it is required to substantive law. Such laws may be contain geometric terms, but these terms are insufficient to explain the man-environment relationships because this is in nature, in geometric in nature, and he identified 2 type of laws relevant to the geographical work, that is a congruent substance law and overlapping substance law. The positivist-led geography has wider application of laws for successful and fruitful analysis of geographical phenomena together with a spatial pattern. The concept of law has a much wider significance in such geography, which is based conceived of as a science with a law-seeking episteme, because the postulate threefold of threefold of hierarchies of scientific statement. And third one is logic. Logical validation is one of the most commonly used method of validation and certainly one of the most difficult to apply. It refers to either theoretical or common sense analysis, which conclude that the item being what they are, the nature of the continuum cannot be other than started to be. Logical validation or face validation is sometimes called, it is always used because it is automatically springs from the careful definition of continuum and the selection of items. Scientists have tend to use the mathematics terms like algebra and mathematics properties like algebra and geometry as a language for expressing and developing logic, but mathematical language is a not acceptable language for explanation of items. Fourth one is a reductionism. It is one of the most important key of the scientific methods. Reductionism is usually taken to apply to any doctrine that seeks to explain the higher order of phenomena in terms of the lower order of phenomena. Such doctrine can be held in different forms and applied in many different areas of intellectual endeavor. One form of reductionism is notion and another form of is thesis. Reductionism is a defined as concept or a statement of redefine is terms which are more elementary or basics. A geographical explanation may said to be reductionist if it is attempt to account for a range of phenomena is terms of single determining factor. In human geography, the most common forms of reductionism is probably expressed as a description of behavioral of individual actors, or some Marxist theories are said to be reductionist because they attempt to explain the diversity of sound behavior by reference of the economy. Reductionism, one of the different variety, may not be accepted and which view all human patterns in terms of a single factor explanation such as class struggle that appear to be too simple explanation. The great variety of society, environmental relationship which have been observed on face of the earth. It is rather difficult to comment on the success of reductionism method in geography, given the fact that geography has yet to achieve a great success in terms of laws. A fifth one is a hypothesis. Hypothesis explain the theory, law, logic and reduction are the key element and scientific thinking, but there is however a fifth element, and that is a research hypothesis which provide a link to these four above one and the areas of scientific practice. A research hypothesis predict the outcome of an experiment or observation if the theories is correct, is well developed natural science. Thus, a theory can be tested in context other than those for which it was originally devised. Hypotheses are the tentative statement that guide empirical work in several scientific epistemologies. In other words, we can say a hypothesis is a structured speculation that must be empirical in tested. Further one, we can we discussed about the types of hypothesis, and in this point we discussed the different kind of hypothesis used in social and geographical analysis studies and researches. However, there are four types of hypothesis. Hypothesis derived research hypothesis derived from a researcher's theory about some geographical phenomena are called research hypothesis or working hypothesis. In this context, null other one is null hypothesis. Null hypothesis are the hypothetical model used to test research hypothesis. It is also considered as a reverse of research hypothesis. And third one is a scientific hypothesis. Scientific hypothesis is a general proposition about all the things of a certain sort. It is a empirical proposition and it testable by experience. And fourth one and last one is a statistical hypothesis, in which that observation about people or things are reduced in some way to numerical quantities and decisions are made about these quantities. Functions of hypothesis we can discuss as a very common way. The major functions of the hypothesis is make it possible to test theories. In this regard, a alternative definition of a hypothesis is that it is a statement of theories in testable form. Some hypotheses are not associated with any particular theories. Could be come out with a result of some hypothesis. A theory will be constructed. Consequently, another function of the hypothesis is to suggest theories that may be account for some events. Hypotheses also perform a descriptive functions. Each time a hypothesis is tested empirically and result tells something about the phenomena. If the hypothesis is supported, then the information about the phenomena increases. Even if the hypothesis is refuted, the test tell the something about the phenomena that is not known before, or known before. And testing of hypothesis. Testing of a hypothesis means subjecting them to some sort of empirical scrutiny to determine if they are supported or refuted by what the researcher observed. The accumulation of information as a result of hypothesis testing reduces the amount of ignorance we may have about why a social event occurs in given way. There are two prerequisites for the hypothesis testing. First one, the real social situation is needed that will suffice as a reasonable testing ground for the hypothesis, and second one is the investigator should make sure that his or her hypothesis are the testable. Geographical hypothesis of scientific method and some problem regarding these scientific methods. After 1950s, there is a continuing debate with regard to the application of scientific method in geography. There were two mutually exclusive arguments on these issues. One sided argue that scientific methods should be introduced in both physical and human geography, and on one other sided in other hand we can some geographers had claimed that the discipline was in some sense an exceptional discipline which might be excused from the constraint of scientific method. Despite counter argument and dichotomies after 1960s, geographical research using quasi scientific method which emphasizes on law seeking methods and model based paradigm. The philosophical and methodological base for this was carried forward by young Anglo-American geographers. A number of textbooks in both human and physical geography emphasized the need of theory, laws, hypotheses, measurement and statistical techniques, but the protagonist of these approaches was often unaware of the problems inherent in scientific approach and could not identify the additional problem posed by its geographical use. Most of these problems stemmed from the team's fact of geography as a whole deals with the multivariables open system, and human geography deals with the knowing subjects. In this regard, the relevance of the scientific method in geography, scientific method hold a relevance in geographical research and testing in both physical and human for three reasons. First one, the scientific method does not have the ability to provide coherent and testable theories about the nature of geographical phenomena. Second one, the scientific methods remains appealing because it is a logical correlated extensions of or thought structures developed in everyday life, including the willingness to correct theories or hypotheses in light of experience. Knowledge of a scientific type is required by society for its purpose of managing social and natural system. Is the third one, that is the relevance of the scientific methods in geography. However, the scientific geography cannot remain untouched by critical evolution and criticisms, and elements which are required to be retained had to be modified. As a result of these geographical theories were derivative. The ability or inability of derivative theories to provide the basics of geographical explanation largely dependent on the taste of their overall value. As a research program, the advocate of the application of scientific method of geography feel that at the level of practice, geography would need to be written most of the element so to prove the scientific status. So the discipline, there will be a continuing need for the statistical analysis to carry on the application of scientific method to geographical studies, researches and training. there is no doubt that application of scientific methods to geography has given a nomothetic basis to the discipline with a scientific status and saved it from the crisis of its identity, and it is suffering during the transition period. Thank you.